And welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm excited about this show, not only because we're getting close to Christmas and the new year, etc., but our next guest is longtime friend Tom Werme, one of the great sports announcers in the country today, an ACC guy, a Florida State apologist from last year, a Syracuse guy. That notwithstanding, I want to welcome in my good friend Tom Werme to the show. Tommy, great to see you. How are you?
Doug, it is a privilege and an honor to be with you as usual. Man, I've known you for so long now, since we bumped into one another at a Charlotte Bobcats game back in the day, early 2000s. My gosh. And now every once in a while our paths get to cross when we get out on the PGA Tour, which is one of the great pleasures of my broadcasting career. Not only to work with you, but everybody else that we work with in and around the golf space and in and around college athletics and professional sports and all the great things that we get to do. And by the way, Syracuse was probably about one win away, maybe, Doug, from getting into the playoff. And I wish Alabama the very best in the playoff. Wait a minute. We're not in the playoff?
Okay,
What?
smart
It's
guy.
just breaking news. Breaking news. Neither is Florida State, so.
You know, it is interesting because Syracuse is down 21-0 to Miami. And
Yeah,
inexplicably,
gotta run where we want 'em.
they roar back and win at home. That allows Clemson to get into the championship game. They win, and now Dabo and his team, ACC champs in the playoffs. It really is amazing what happened to Clemson and how all that transpired. But again, you do a lot of ACC work. Good for the ACC. Two teams in the playoffs, Tom.
It was interesting because that was probably the only scenario that was going to get two in was a
Yes.
close competitive loss by SMU. And by the way, we fully expected. I was at that game, and it was so cold, Doug, for our standards in North Carolina. In the Carolinas, It was 36 degrees. And after the third quarter, Clemson had extended its lead to, I want to say, in the 14 neighborhood. And so I left. I was like, this is too cold. I was on the field the whole game.
It was too cold.
All bundled up, toboggan hat, big coat that did not catch on fire.
We'll talk about that, yeah.
Like Shambo. But I was like, well, this is over. And SMU came back and tied it up. And then I was listening to the radio call on the way back, the Clemson call, and I heard, well, there's a few seconds left, and after SMU had scored, there's a few seconds left, and they got a good return, and they might have a chance at a field goal. And sure enough, the freshman kicker kicks a field goal like it was a basketball layup, like it was no problem. And now the Tigers are in. So if any team has any sort of momentum, it's definitely Clemson and Dabo Swinney. And they're back in. They're part of the 12-team playoff, and so is SMU. And I think the committee did pretty well. They made up for what last year was controversial, to say the least. But it'll be interesting to see the 12 teams.
Yeah, it was fun. And you know, your fellow Syracuse guy, Sean McDonough, who's been on the show, by the way, at the beginning of that ACC championship, he and Greg McElroy, as SMU fell woefully behind, it was like, well, Alabama's in, SMU is dropping the ball here. And then by the fourth quarter, it was like, wait a minute, it looks like SMU's back in. The narrative completely changed. And then with the close loss, the next day it would have been impossible for the committee to put Alabama in over SMU. The narrative was set. And so here we are, SMU. And Tom, you're an ACC guy. SMU's not taking any TV money from the ACC. They literally are paying to be in the ACC. It is a remarkable story what they pulled off. For 10 years.
For 10 years. They come into the league. They get in the championship game in their first year. Doug, the landscape of college athletics, as we know now, is just totally upside down.
Yes, it is.
With the freedom of the players to move around, which we've probably been trending towards that for a long time, but now it's to the point where it's almost confusing, especially with players. And I'm getting into my basketball schedule, you know, for the CW network doing ACC games, and you see names pop up on the rosters, and you say, wait a minute, wasn't that guy at this school? And then he left and came back, and now he's on a different school. SMU, for example, they've got a guy from Wake Forest on their roster this season, and I'm looking at the Florida State roster, and I see some of their players who have gone to other schools like Virginia and that kind of thing. So you're just trying to keep up is a job in itself. But it's exciting, and the ACC, bring as many teams in as you want, keep playing, and these competitive teams that represent the conference well, and now the conference has 2 teams in the playoff, and we'll see how the basketball season goes. As long as they don't play any SEC teams anymore for the rest of the season, I mean, wow. It even happened again last night with your Florida Gators.
Yeah, that was a great game, by the way, in Charlotte. The SEC is outstanding. Bar none, the best league up to this point of the season. Big 12, Big 10, ACC, really, there's no argument. So it'll be a compelling year. And for the first time ever, as long as I've been doing it, you can say the Southeastern Conference from top to bottom is the best men's basketball conference in America. Long way to go. Conference season, NCAA. But right now, in my lifetime, I've never been able to say that at this stage of the game.
Right. The only thing I'd say about the ACC is that we've been talking about, and I say we, because on the broadcast, I work with so many great people, as you know, on our television broadcast.
Yeah.
We talk about the fact that it's, for the ACC right now, it's more about quality than quantity, because the last 3 years they've only, have had 5 teams in the league get into the tournament, and yet they've sent 4 teams to the Final Four in the last 3 years. So it's more of a quality thing, and they're all talking about the fact that it's got to be more of a quantity thing. So we'll see how that kind of shakes out as the season goes along.
All right, well, let's talk a little golf we'll circle back, because I did want to get your picks a little bit. Clemson, Texas, SMU, Penn State. But anyway, golf. Last night, if you're watching this broadcast, it happened on Tuesday night, the showdown, the Crypto.com showdown, Live versus the PGA Tour in Vegas. Again, Tommy, the production was incredible. Everybody's mic'd up. They got the lights. It's a nighttime golf thing, which I think is really cool. Listen, production value is incredible. The broadcast itself, I still think it's too long. And you have these players, golfers mic'd up, and I don't care whether they're golfers, basketball, football players. It's just not that interesting. They don't say a lot of interesting stuff, but nevertheless, what did you make of the telecast last night? And I know you sat and watched it.
Well, I think anybody who put a lot of importance on it, say one exhibition league against the best golf in the entire planet on the PGA Tour, I don't know that it was a clash of those two entities necessarily.
Agreed.
I mean, and by the way, I don't care who you put up against Scotty and Rory, you're going to lose like 99 out of 100 times.
Well, especially Scotty.
Scotty Scheffler, he won another event. What's that, like 57 wins for him in 2024?
Well, I mean, again, when he's on your team, the other guys, I don't know what the other guys have been doing. I know Bryson's been hitting shots over his house, trying to hit a hole-in-one, and who knows what Brooks has been. Believe. Yes, but I mean, Scotty obviously has been working very hard on his game, and it was obvious. Charles Barkley kept talking about that, how good he was. And it was funny, Tom, it was the first time Charles said he's ever seen Scotty in person. He's watched him on television multiple times, and he was just in awe as he watched this guy warm up and practice and play. And I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, here's Barkley, who has an appreciation for good athletes, and for the first time in person, he saw the number 1 player in the world.
It's funny because we see Scotty on a regular basis in person, obviously. And awe does not come to mind for me because of the everyman nature of what he does and what his swing looks like. Not a thing of beauty. Is it effective? Perhaps the most effective swing on the planet, again.
No doubt.
But he's such a normal guy 99.9% of the time. I would almost say that he could walk down the middle of a street in rural America, and the only thing they would say to him is say, "Hey, you should probably get out of the middle of the street. You're going to get hit by a car." I mean, it's like, he's so approachable. There's so many great qualities about him and his family especially. His dad, who's a huge fan of PGA Tour radio, and makes sure that he tells us that every time he sees us in person out on the golf course, wherever we are. But I saw this stands out in my mind. If you don't mind a quick digression, Doug, this stands out in my mind about Scotty from last year, because I was at the Tour Championship, at East Lake Golf Club at the end of the season in late August, actually or into early September, I think, too.
First week of
If I remember
September.
the schedule correctly, because it overlapped with the first week of college football. Scotty was in the bunker on the 8th hole, which obviously they've changed the 9s, and they made the 8th a little bit different. It's got the lake to the left for anybody who's unfamiliar with the terrain and the layout at East Lake Golf Club. And he was in the bunker in 2, and I'm going to say this word, and I hate to say this out loud. He shanked it out of the bunker, the most straightforward bunker shot you would ever see.
I remember, yeah.
Shanked it out of the bunker. Now, and it was headed towards the water that's over the green, which is not in play. And managed to get it up and down from there, to the best of my knowledge. Even if he didn't.
No, he did. He did. It was an amazing par, yeah.
From behind the green there, and that was not an easy shot either. The point being, like, every once in a while, he becomes human, but it's very brief. Like, you have to really pay attention and pick it out because he's such a good player with, as he admits, room for improvement on all aspects. And so, again, to return to my original point, if you think that was some kind of statement made, now, I think a lot of people are happy it went the way it did, but I don't think it's something that people will remember that time when Scotty and Rory won that match against DeChambeau and Koepka, who I don't know that he was fully committed to the, what do the kids say, Doug? Committed to the bit?
Yes.
No, I don't know that Koepka was fully committed. So, and isn't that crazy? I know I'm going on and on because I love golf so much, especially talking about these players. But isn't it crazy that DeChambeau and Koepka were teammates? Go back like 3 or 4 years and say, this is what's going to happen. There's going to be a match under the lights in Vegas. Scotty and Rory representing the PGA Tour, and Koepka and DeChambeau are going to be teammates on some other exhibition tour. You think I'd make your head explode if I said that? And that's exactly what we watched. So I know that was a long digression, and
no,
it's fun to talk about. Hey, if people are talking about it, that's really the purpose.
Well, listen, I think that is a precursor to what eventually is going to happen, maybe in 2026, where we'll have crossover play. I think that's inevitable. I do think the golfers last night wanted to win. You know how golfers are. I mean, you don't want to lose.
I guess.
I think they wanted to win, but I think what we saw on display was, listen, the future of maybe golf television. Night golf is really, really neat. And I think they need to do that a little bit more. Under the lights, it creates this drama. And for the players, it's difficult. It's difficult to hit shots in the dark, even with the floodlights.
They said that over and over, yeah.
It really is. But I like that idea. It's just, I don't know. I took it. Listen, it could be better. The telecast could be shorter. I think more succinct. They played a lot of golf. It lasts a long time. I think there's too many voices in the announce booth. I like all those people, but it was just too much. And like Bubba Watson was the sideline reporter, at least the on-course interview guy. And listen, he's never done that. And with all due respect, I think you need a more experienced broadcaster in that position. Listen, we haven't won the Masters, I know that, but I think you need more experienced people.
Is that your resume hanging up behind you back there, Doug?
Listen, I mean, I need an agent. Come on.
Looks like a resume. I'm here to help.
But let me ask you this as we segue now. The PNC Father-Son Challenge. Tiger's going to play with Charlie. It's a 2-day event. He gets to ride in a cart. Wants to play with Charlie. I think that is fabulous. His new league, the TGL, will debut on Golf Channel January 7th. We're going to get to see Tiger play again, Tom. Maybe not. I mean, I don't know how much. He turns 49 at the end of the month. The chances of him winning again, I think there is no chance against these top players. But I still want to see him play. Are you satisfied that we'll get to see him in the Father-Son and his indoor TGL starting in January? Is that enough?
I mean, you take what you can get, I guess,
okay.
At this point with his health concerns that seemingly mount, and he's got to return to the, like we were just talking about. Like, how far does he have to go to compete with Scotty Scheffler? it's a marathon.
It's impossible to catch up at this stage of the game. Right.
I mean, and he's said as much too. So
yeah.
I think there's one course that he can still compete on, somewhat healthy, and that's the one south of where I am right now in Fort Mill, South Carolina, on the Augusta, the Georgia, South Carolina line.
Well, I think that's the next time we'll see him after the father-son in his January 7th, indoor league, which, by the way, is amazing. That's down near my home in Jupiter. It's the old Palm Beach Junior College, which is now Palm Beach College. And, Tom, they built this amazing studio, the SoFi studio for the TGL League. I mean, Tom, this is the coolest, the largest simulator in the world. It's like a big scoreboard you see at a football stadium, and they have real grass inside. I mean, Tom, I was skeptical at the beginning, and now I've seen video clips, and yesterday on Instagram, Lucas Glover was in there practicing. I think this is, listen, I'm an old guy, but I'm intrigued. I can't wait to watch this on January 7th. I want to see how this unveils. I think it's going to be neat.
Yeah, I mean, anything new and kind of a different venue and a different alignment and setup. There is that team nature to it, which has kind of crept into things. And
yes,
obviously, it's for a certain audience, I think.
No question.
You just talked about I think the biggest thing about it is what you just talked about. You were watching the match, the showdown, whatever it is, and that's what, when players are walking to their shots, that's what it is. It takes a while to get there.
Right.
It's like, it's not boom, 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 boom. Even when they're all on the green, it's not like that. So there is that inherent nature of the game in that regard, especially when you've only got 4 players.
So good point.
The thing that with your indoor digital league, simulation league, I feel like things are going to happen pretty fast. They're going to, because there's no, luckily for Tiger, he doesn't have to walk after any of these shots, and all the stuff is right there. And when I say stuff, all the components, the giant video wall that you spoke of, the green that actually changes undulation.
That's really neat, yeah.
You know what I would love to see is they have like these giant fans, so there would be wind in there. Do they have that?
They might. I don't know, but they might.
Put that in the suggestion box. Well,
it is fascinating. And how about this? Now, here are the teams, by the way. Tiger's team, the Jupiter Lynx, which really is a cool logo. I saw that the other day at the PGA Tour Superstore.
How do you spell Lynx?
Links.
Okay. Right.
Rory is the captain for the Boston Commons. I know you're a New England guy. JT, the Atlanta Drive. Colin Morikawa, the LA Golf Club. Xander, the New York Golf Club. And Ludwig Aubert. And I think Hideki's on his team. It's the Bay Golf Club out in San Francisco. So those are your teams, Tom. I mean, I kind of like the names.
I think it's ironic that the Atlanta team is called the Drive. When you drive down to Atlanta, that's the one thing you cannot do right. When you're driving into the city.
It's a quagmire.
You should
Traffic
be called
jam.
Atlanta sitting and watching other cars.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Well, no. Listen, I think what we're discussing here is...
Wait, is Scotty on the team with Rory?
No, Scotty's... No, I don't believe Scotty's playing.
Isn't there... No, not Scotty. I'm sorry. Keegan Bradley.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So, and that's curious that Scotty's not doing it, but whatever.
Well, I mean...
Conversation.
Yeah.
Well, he would win again, right?
Yeah, and there's no question. But I think what we're seeing now, and Tom, I want to get your perspective on this, because Jay Monahan, our commissioner for the PGA Tour, does his video call to order yesterday, talks about what a great year 2024 is, the future. The PGA Tour is going to hire now for the first time a CEO in charge of the business operations, expanding things. He's going to be on the player advisory board. The commissioner on the PGA Tour has never been on there with the players. So a lot's happening. But Tom, I think the game is evolving. We've talked about the showdown. We've talked about the TGL. I mean, there's a lot going on in the game. And I think over the next 12 to 24 months, Tom, I think it's all positive. I think we're going to have some really cool stuff. We have our new studio down at Ponte Vedra, the new PGA Tour Productions, which is like a spaceship when you see it. I think golf's, listen, wherever golf was a year or two ago, I think, Tom, it's on the upward trend now. Do you agree or disagree?
No, that's all great stuff. I think everybody still points at let's get them all on the same playing field. If any of that contributes to resolving that in some way, shape, or form, absolutely, without question. And by the way, I can't wait to get down to the new studio,
Whew.
Ponte Vedra.
It's. I've just seen pictures.
Because we're lucky enough to get to work on PGA Tour live coverage as
Yes.
well, which is fantastic. And then PGA Tour Radio, where we're out on the golf course, and that is the absolute awesome situation to be in as far as a broadcaster. I never thought that I would ever do golf on the radio, Doug, and now here we are. Like, you've been doing it for 25 years, whatever it is.
A long time.
I've been doing it for 15 years. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
With this.
Yeah.
And it's
no,
just,
it's great.
I went, and I'll say this, and this is kind of talking about the PGA Tour schedule, and all the stuff that you said is great, and I nominate Doug Bell for CEO of the PGA Tour, by the way.
That'd be a good gig.
Well, it's shifting away from the 501c nature of the business and all that
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
But I went to the tournament in Jackson, Mississippi, the Sanderson Farms Championship, and that they re-upped their sponsorship for next year too, which is wonderful. And I didn't really know because it was one of the fall events. Obviously, not. I don't think enough focus is put on the fall events. For the players trying to get a job, it certainly is, and trying to move up in the FedEx Cup points standings. And I was totally open mind. I didn't want to have any preconceived notions about Jackson, Mississippi, or anything like that. And Doug, it was one of the greatest experiences as a broadcaster I've ever had, between the people and the tournament and the results. And the great thing about the PGA Tour is you think you might know who's going to win the tournament, but I said Kevin Yu wins this tournament, which is something I thought I would never say in a playoff against Bo Hostler, who we've been mistaken for one another a couple times on the golf course, as you know, with the high-profile visor.
You look a lot like each other, yeah.
By the way, but that's what I'm trying to say is, yes, the marquee events are awesome, and the Players Championship, if you've never been, and even if you don't know you don't know the difference between a golf ball and a golf tee, go to the Players, right, Doug? I mean, go to that
special.
event and experience
It's special.
what it's like around 15, 16, 17, 8, all that stuff. Anyway, everybody knows about that. But the point I'm trying to illustrate is the stories on the PGA Tour are just amazing every week. And I was lucky enough to be a part of that in Jackson, Mississippi, one of the smaller events on the PGA Tour, and it was awesome. And I went to the Procore Championship, too, for the first time in Napa, California, and that was fantastic, too. So
I just think with all the negativity that has been in the game for all that has happened, I think we're headed in a positive direction. And again, you have John Henry, owner of the Red Sox, Arthur Blank, owner of the Falcons, and all these other guys in the Strategic Sports Group who have basically given the tour about a $1.5 billion. And,
how much
did
you give?
Well, it's in the mail.
A couple mil?
But I think these are smart individuals who see the big picture, and I think the tour, the golf is going in I think it's headed in a really good direction right now. At least that's my feeling with all that's transpiring. And I think what you're talking about, getting everybody back together, I think that will happen. I think by 2026 we're going to have crossover play. That's my feeling.
And for the existing form of the PGA Tour too, I'm hoping that the player that works hard and makes a good living on the PGA Tour doesn't get overlooked or forgotten by new parameters that are being discussed.
Well, that's I think that's one of the fallouts. I think when you move in the direction we're talking about, there's going to be fallout, unfortunately. And those individuals you're talking about just need to play better. And that's easy to say.
Yeah.
And it's
Depends
cold-hearted, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody makes an NFL roster. Not all good players make NBA rosters. You got to work at it, and that's why it's the best of the best. That's why it's the elite, right? So
kind of like the way they select PGA Tour radio broadcasts. Similar process.
Thank goodness we don't fall under those guidelines and those parameters. All right, Tommy, before I let you go, we got to circle back because you are a genius when it comes to picking games.
Wow, that's the first. Okay.
Well, and it is amazing. I mean, here we have the college football playoffs.
You have my record in front of you?
Well, I mean, I just think listen, we have the playoffs happening, 1 game Friday, 3 on Saturday. Yeah. We have bowl games going on. I mean, like Friday night, Florida plays Tulane in the Gasparilla Bowl. I mean, and we'll have NFL games on Saturday. I mean, it's just where sports is in football right now is just, and you have the backup quarterback for Penn State. Sorry, I can't make the playoffs because I'm in the transfer portal. I mean, it's so chaotic right now. But with that said, I'm going to go with your ACC, SMU at Penn State. I know you've done games at Penn State. It's going to be cold. I don't think it's going to get above 25 during this game. What do you think? SMU get 8.5 at Penn State opening round of the playoffs.
So I think SMU's getting 8.5.
Yes.
Gee whiz! Wow.
I know where you're leaning.
I probably have to go with that for SMU. They may win the game straight up, Doug. They're really. Does anybody? I mean, I feel like everybody's looking at the bracket and going, SMU is in there outside of the ACC. Outside of our footprint in the Southeast here. SMU is in there. Wait a minute. When did their football program come back? It's like, well, they're good. And Rhett Lashley, if you recall, was at Miami. Remember, he was the offensive coordinator.
And he was at Auburn.
He was at Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yes.
He's come up through the ranks pretty well, younger guy. I mean, I like what he's done, and I like them with the points. And they may win the game straight up. There's also college basketball on Saturday, by the way, Doug. There's Florida State. Florida State has a game on Saturday, too. They're taking on Louisville. Just wanted on the CW Network. Just wanted to mention that.
My producers give me the wrap-up sign. Come on, easy now. Lastly, Clemson, again, sticking with your ACC, getting 11.5 at Texas. This will be the warmest game, by the way. It'll be about 65 degrees in Austin. All these other crazy games, it's going to be just so cold at Ohio State, at Notre Dame, at Penn State. But this will be a warm weather game. What do you think? Clemson has Dabo taken this team about as far as he can go? 11.5-point dog at Texas.
When you have the attitude of we've got like rebirth, renewed hope, all that stuff, that's basically what he built the whole program on. When he took over for our great friend, Tommy Bowden, a broadcast colleague who I got to work with for many years, great family, my gosh. But that's what it is. It's hope and commitment and all in and win the game on a last-second field goal by a freshman. I mean, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near the Clemson Tigers, especially in the first round. You got orange and regalia against burnt orange, and I think it might be purple and orange. We'll see. So, we Homer picks?
Well, we started our conversation with your love for the ACC, and now we're ending it with you picking the two ACC teams.
Yes,
oh my goodness!
Against the spread
on the road. So
yeah.
Okay,
we don't need the points. How's that?
I love you, bro. I love you. You're loyal.
Right back at you, Slick.
Dabo Swinney, by the way, back in the day when I was a local sports announcer in Birmingham, he was our high school football player of the week. Dabo Swinney, sponsored by Coca-Cola.
What? Are you talking late 80s?
Yeah, we went out to Pelham High School. He was a wide receiver. And we had a little, you had a little plaque that Coca-Cola provided, and we presented Dabo on the practice field his high school football player of the week award. So, just saying, he and I go way back.
Is there video documentation of that on some old VHS grainy tape somewhere? And a lot of people are watching this, Doug, saying, VHS? What is that? Is that a new conference?
Well, I think that was the old 3/4-inch tape. Remember those things?
Oh, 3/4, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure those exist anymore. Those are
with the deck and the 20-minute battling field tape. Yeah.
Yes.
What are these guys talking about?
Yes. So good stuff. All right, Tommy. Well, listen, I do appreciate it, my friend. It is great to see you. Thanks for being on with us. Have a great Christmas, great New Year. I will see you after I get back from Hawaii. I'm doing that trip.
Yes.
And then we'll be working together somewhere along the way on the PGA Tour Radio.
I get started with the Players Championship in mid-March.
Oh, because you're still doing basketball. Okay,
doing
good for you.
basketball, yeah, for the CW.
Okay.
By the way,
All
it's
right.
a game Saturday, Florida State and Louisville on the CW.
I'm going to be watching amidst all the football. I'll be watching your game.
During the game.
I do sometimes.
By the way, it really is a thrill to be in the lineage and pantheon of the guests that you have had on your show, Doug. I was a guest of the old radio show, the old
yes,
just audio element only show, which is also wonderful.
Well, we just want to get your handsome face on the show.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate
now you're plastered all over YouTube.
I gotta go dye these gray hairs now. I'll be right back.
Hey, Tommy, Merry Christmas, man. We'll see you soon.
Happy holidays. Take care.
All right, buddy.